What if everything you rely on disappears tomorrow? The Amish have survived without modern tech for centuries, and they're ready for anything. Here are 15 survival items you need before society collapses. Canning supplies. Picture this: your power's out, your freezer's dead, and that pack of frozen chicken is looking pretty sad. Now shift your attention to an Amish family cellar lined wall to wall with perfectly preserved fruits, vegetables, and meats that'll stay good for years. While we're all scrambling to figure out what to do with our defrosting food, they're calmly reaching for another jar of home-canned goodness. These mason jars aren't just for those trendy Instagram-worthy smoothies either. They're survival powerhouses that can store everything from garden tomatoes to grandma's secret apple butter recipe. A pressure canner, some mason jars, and proper lids are all you really need to start your food independence journey. The Amish have mastered this art over generations, and they've taught us that proper canning can keep food safe to eat for up to 5 years. Try getting that kind of shelf life from your fancy smart fridge. The beauty of canning supplies is their simplicity. Just get yourself some mason jars, lids, and a pressure canner. The Amish use them for everything from storing winter vegetables to preserving fresh-caught fish. Not to mention, when things get really rough, you can grab your canned goods and go. Try doing that with a freezer full of ice cream. Plus, here's a fun fact. Mason jars were invented in 1858 by John Landis Mason, and they haven't changed much since then. Talk about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Speaking of things that don't need fixing, let's talk about another Amish survival essential that's been keeping families warm and well-fed for generations. Wood stove. When your neighbor Bob is bragging about his new smart thermostat, the Amish are quietly chuckling while loading another log into their wood stove. This isn't just any old metal box. It's the Swiss Army knife of survival gear, delivering heat, cooking power, and hot water all in one package. And unlike Bob's fancy gadget, it'll keep working long after the power grid throws in the towel. Here's something wild. A single wood stove can heat up to 2,000 square feet of living space, and that's not counting its cooking capabilities. While folks are panicking about their electric ovens becoming expensive paperweights, Amish families are baking bread, cooking stews, and boiling water with nothing but wood they gathered from their backyard. Talk about self-reliance. You might be thinking, but isn't that old technology? Well, so is the wheel, and we're still pretty fond of that invention. The beauty of a wood stove lies in its simplicity. No computer chips to fry, no software updates needed, and no repairman charging you an arm and a leg when something goes wrong. Just solid cast iron doing what it does best. And let's talk efficiency. Modern wood stoves can reach up to 75% efficiency, making them far better than that drafty fireplace you've been holding on to. The Amish have been using these reliable workhorses for generations, proving that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As for the fuel source, Mother Nature keeps making trees, and last time I checked, she doesn't take credit cards. Rainwater collection system. Did you know the average American household burns through 330 gallons of water every day? When society's conveniences start breaking down, Amish communities will still be catching free water from the sky like it's nobody's business. They've been mastering this essential survival skill while the rest of us have been taking our faucets for granted. A basic rainwater setup is surprisingly simple. Some gutters, downspouts, and a few storage barrels are all you need to start banking that liquid gold before things go south. 1 inch of rain on a 1,000-square-foot roof can yield over 600 gallons of water. That's enough to keep you hydrated, your garden watered, and your shirts washed when municipal water systems fail. And the best part, the rain doesn't send you a bill at the end of the month. But here's where it gets even better. Many Amish families combine rainwater collection with hand-pumped wells, creating their own mini water utility system that'll keep running no matter what happens to the grid. They're living proof that you don't need a city water connection to survive and thrive. While the rest of the neighborhood is stockpiling plastic water bottles that'll probably expire before they're used, these folks are literally making it rain on demand. And when someone asks about water pressure, well, gravity's been providing reliable water pressure since before indoor plumbing was even a thing. It's like having your own personal water tower minus the maintenance crew and municipal taxes. You might say the Amish are experts at going with the flow. And speaking of flow, let's talk about how they're handling another essential resource that most of us take for granted: solar-powered battery bank. Here's a plot twist you didn't see coming. Those plain folks in the Amish community are actually solar power pioneers. While they might skip the Instagram selfies and Netflix binges, many Amish families have embraced solar technology as their go-to power source before the rest of us even figured out which end of a solar panel faces up. When society hits the fan and the power grid goes dark, you'll want to have one of these bad boys ready to go. A decent solar-powered battery bank can keep your essential devices running without depending on the fragile power grid. The beauty is in its simplicity. The sun shows up for work every day, even if it's hiding behind clouds, doesn't ask for raises, and never goes on strike. But what makes this setup truly survival-worthy is its independence from the system. Many Amish communities have already figured this out. They use solar panels because it lets them harvest power without being tied to the outside world. A quality battery bank paired with solar panels can store enough juice to run emergency lights, charge communication devices, or keep small appliances going when everything else stops working. And here's a juicy tidbit. Modern solar battery banks can store up to 10 kilowatt hours of power, enough to run critical equipment for days. That's like having a mini power plant in your backyard, minus the nuclear meltdown risks and nosy utility meter readers. You might say it's a bright idea to take this cue from our Amish neighbors. Now, speaking of survival necessities that don't require a PhD in engineering, the only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime that are impossible to find elsewhere. We decided to promote his book because we are the last generation able to share these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods to survive crises disappear. You can also find a book about herbal remedies from Nicole Apelian on their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. Water filtration system? Clean water isn't just a luxury, it's the difference between surviving and becoming a cautionary tale. While modern folks are busy stocking up on bottled water that'll last about as long as a politician's promise, the Amish have been using simple but effective filtration systems that'll keep working long after the last Evian bottle runs dry. Here's a scary thought. When the taps run dry, that peaceful stream behind your house suddenly becomes prime real estate. But drink from it without proper filtration, and you might end up spending your apocalypse hugging the toilet instead of protecting your homestead. A good water filtration system removes 99.99% of harmful bacteria, parasites, and other nasties that could turn your survival situation into a medical emergency. Unlike our Amish neighbors who've mastered traditional filtration methods over generations, we can take advantage of modern portable filters that pack the same punch in a smaller package. These systems can process up to 1,000 gallons of water before needing replacement parts. That's enough to keep you hydrated for nearly 3 years. And unlike those fancy reverse osmosis systems that need electricity, these work on good old-fashioned gravity or hand-pumping power. The best part? You don't need an engineering degree to use one. Just pour in the questionable water from whatever source you can find, and out comes clean, safe drinking water. It's like having a tiny water treatment plant in your bug-out bag. And speaking of keeping things fresh, let's talk about another Amish survival secret that's been keeping food edible since before refrigerators were cool. Root cellar. Want to know what laughs in the face of power outages and keeps your food fresh without using a single watt of electricity? The humble root cellar, nature's refrigerator, and an absolute must-have before everything goes sideways. Every Amish family worth their salt has one of these underground food vaults, and they've been keeping their produce fresh long before the first refrigerator hummed to life. The science behind it is beautifully simple. Dig deep enough into the earth, usually about 6 to 8 feet, and you'll find a constant temperature between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. That's perfect fridge territory without the monthly electric bill. A well-built root cellar can keep your apples crisp for up to 6 months, potatoes edible for 8 months, and those hardy winter squash looking good for a whole year. You don't need to be a master builder to create one either. The basics are straightforward: a hole in the ground, some good drainage, proper ventilation, and sturdy shelving. The Amish have been perfecting this design for generations, and some of their root cellars have been keeping food fresh for over 100 years. That's longer than most modern appliance warranties by about, 100 years. Remember those apocalyptic movies where everyone's fighting over the last can of beans at the supermarket? With a root cellar, you'll be kicking back with your perfectly preserved harvest while the rest of the world discovers that frozen pizza doesn't taste so great at room temperature. Now, let's shed some light on another crucial survival tool that doesn't need an electrical outlet: oil lamps and lanterns. When the grid finally gives up the ghost, those fancy LED bulbs won't be worth the circuit boards they're printed on. But you know who'll still be reading, working, and going about their business after sunset? The Amish, with their trusty oil lamps casting a warm, steady glow across their homes. These aren't your great-grandmother's decorative knickknacks we're talking about. A quality oil lamp can burn for up to 50 hours on a single filling. That's more reliable than the power company during a thunderstorm. And unlike those dollar store emergency candles that burn out faster than your phone battery, these bad boys are built to last through the long haul. The math is pretty compelling too. 1 gallon of lamp oil can keep a single lamp burning for around 140 hours. Store a few gallons away and you've got yourself months of dependable lighting. The Amish have been using these practical light sources for generations, and they've learned a thing or two about maximizing their efficiency. Did you know that adding a bit of salt to your lamp oil can make the flame burn cleaner and brighter? Safety-wise, they're leagues ahead of candles, which are basically tiny fire hazards on sticks. Oil lamps are stable, predictable, and won't tip over when your cat decides to practice its parkour skills across your survival supplies. Plus, they give off enough heat to warm your hands during those cold, dark nights when the heating's out. But having light is only half the battle. Let's talk about something that'll keep you fed when times get tough. Heirloom seeds. Those shiny hybrid seeds from the garden store might look pretty in their fancy packets, but when survival is on the line, you'll want what the Amish have been quietly saving for generations: heirloom seeds. Unlike modern hybrid varieties that turn into genetic dead ends after one season, these old-school seeds are the gift that keeps on giving. Here's a wake-up call. Just 4 companies control more than 60% of the global seed market. That's not exactly comforting when you're planning for long-term survival. Heirloom seeds, on the other hand, are like having your own personal seed bank that renews itself every harvest. The Amish have been saving and trading these seeds for centuries, creating resilient varieties that laugh in the face of tough conditions. Each heirloom plant you grow tells a story. These aren't just your average vegetables, they're time-tested survivors that have been feeding families for hundreds of years. Remember those tomatoes from your grandmother's garden that tasted better than anything you can buy today? Chances are those were heirloom varieties, and unlike those genetically modified supercrops, these plants know how to handle themselves without chemical fertilizers and pesticides. The real magic happens when you save the seeds from your strongest plants. You're not just growing food anymore, you're selecting and improving varieties that are specifically adapted to your local conditions. It's like having a renewable food source that gets better with each passing season. And if you're wondering what to do with all that produce, remember the canning supplies I told you about earlier. Herbal Remedies. When disaster strikes and the pharmacy shelves are as empty as a politician's promises, natural medicine might be your only option. Those Amish medicine cabinets packed with herbs aren't just for show. They're carrying on centuries-old healing traditions that could save your life when modern medicine isn't an option. Let's talk numbers for a second. Studies show that over 25% of modern medicines originally came from plants. But while Big Pharma is busy turning these natural compounds into expensive pills, the Amish have been growing their own pharmacy in their backyards. Peppermint for upset stomachs, elderberry for immune boosting, garlic for fighting infections. It's like having a doctor's office in your garden. The beauty of herbal remedies lies in their accessibility. You don't need a prescription or insurance approval to grow echinacea for cold season or chamomile for sleepless nights. These plants are hardy, easy to grow, and won't expire like those bottles of pills in your medicine cabinet. Plus, many of these herbs pull double duty. They're both medicine and food. Try getting that kind of versatility from your aspirin bottle. But here's the kicker. While everyone else is rushing to ransack the last drugstore standing, you could be calmly brewing up some immune-boosting elderberry syrup or whipping up a batch of anti-inflammatory turmeric paste. Just remember, those Amish herbalists didn't become experts overnight. They'd learned their craft through generations of practice. Now, speaking of essential skills that require the right tools for the job, hand tools. Your fancy power tools might make you feel like Bob the Builder now, but when the power grid takes an extended vacation, you'll be wishing you had taken notes from the Amish toolbox. These masters of manual labor have been building barns, fixing homes, and crafting furniture with nothing but hand tools since before electricity was even a thing. The best part about hand tools, they never need charging, won't short circuit in the rain, and don't come with software updates that mysteriously break everything. A quality hand saw, hammer, axe, and set of screwdrivers will outlast any battery-powered tool in your garage, and probably your grandkids too. Fun fact, many Amish-made hand tools are still crafted using techniques from the 1800s, and they're so well made, they often get passed down through generations. Ever tried to cut a straight line with a handsaw? It's not as easy as those Amish craftsmen make it look. But here's the thing, while your neighbor's cordless circular saw is collecting dust with a dead battery, you'll be getting stronger and more skilled with every stroke of your trusty crosscut saw. One experienced Amish carpenter can frame an entire wall using just a handsaw and hammer in about the same time it takes to find the right adapter for your power tools. The secret is having the right tool for each job and knowing how to use it properly. A well-maintained set of hand tools isn't just a collection of implements, it's your ticket to true self-reliance. And when you're working up a sweat using those tools, you'll appreciate our next essential item that has been keeping Amish families comfortable for generations. Gardening tools. You can read all the survival books you want, but when your pantry runs dry, you'll need more than knowledge to fill your stomach. That's where a solid set of gardening tools comes in. The kind that Amish families have been using to feed themselves for generations without breaking a sweat over grocery store shortages. Would you believe that one well-maintained garden can provide over 2,000 pounds of food per year? That's enough to keep a family of 4 fed with plenty left over. But you won't get there with those flimsy plastic tools from the dollar store. We're talking about serious, sturdy implements, spades that can break new ground, hoes that laugh at weeds, and rakes that'll outlast whatever apocalypse comes our way. The Amish haven't changed their gardening tool designs much in the last century, and there's a good reason for that. They work. A quality steel spade with a hardwood handle isn't just a tool, it's an investment in your future food security. These tools don't need fuel, won't break down when you need them most, and actually get the job done better than those noisy tillers everyone seems to love. And here's some practical wisdom straight from Amish gardens. Keep your tools clean and dry, store them properly, and they'll last longer than most marriages. A good set of gardening tools isn't just about growing food, it's about growing your independence. Speaking of independence, let's talk about another crucial item that keeps Amish families self-reliant when things get rough. Hunting rifles. Forget what you've seen in the movies. Those peaceful Amish farmers aren't just masters of the plow. They're also some of the most skilled hunters you'll ever meet. While everyone else is fighting over the last can of Spam at the store, they're out there putting fresh meat on the table with their trusty hunting rifles. Here's something that might surprise you. Most Amish communities have been teaching their kids proper hunting skills since they were old enough to shoulder a rifle. We're not talking about random shooting either. These folks can track, hunt, and process their own meat with the kind of skill that would make your local hunting guide jealous. The beauty of a good hunting rifle isn't just in its ability to put food on the table, though that's mighty important when the supermarket shelves are bare. It's about having a reliable tool that can keep working for generations with proper care. And while the Amish are known for their peaceful ways, they're not naive. A well-maintained hunting rifle isn't just for deer season, it's also a powerful deterrent for anyone thinking about causing trouble when law and order takes a vacation. Don't make the mistake of thinking any old rifle will do, though. The Amish choose their firearms like they choose their horses: reliable, practical, and built to last. Quality over quantity is the name of the game here. Now, while we're on the subject, the Amish have quality handmade items for keeping warm and comfortable during tough times. Quilts. Surviving isn't just about having enough bullets and beans. It's about staying warm when your fancy electric blanket becomes a worthless pile of fabric. Just ask any Amish family about their quilts, and you'll discover these aren't just pretty decorations for the guest room. They're serious survival gear disguised as bedroom decor. Would you believe that a properly made quilt can keep you warm in temperatures as low as 20 degrees Fahrenheit? Those layers of fabric and batting might not look high-tech, but they use the same principle as modern sleeping bags, trapping air between layers to create insulation. Amish quilters have been perfecting these techniques for generations, creating bedding that laughs in the face of power outages. The real genius lies in their portability and versatility. Unlike that expensive sleeping bag that only comes out during camping trips, a good quilt can be a blanket, an emergency shelter, a ground cover, or even improvised clothing. And let's talk durability. While your store-bought comforter falls apart after a few washes, Amish-made quilts often become family heirlooms, passed down through multiple generations. Best of all, quilts don't need batteries, can't break down, and actually get softer and more comfortable with age. Cast iron cookware. Pull open any Amish kitchen cabinet and you'll find the heavyweight champion of survival cooking. Cast iron cookware. While your neighbor's non-stick pans are flaking their questionable coating into Friday night's dinner, these black iron beauties are just getting started on their second century of service. A properly seasoned cast iron skillet isn't just a pan, it's a piece of survival equipment that doubles as a family heirloom. These things are so tough, archaeologists have found usable cast iron pans from the 1800s. That's right, your great-great-grandma's skillet might still be cooking up a storm somewhere. Try that with your $100 non-stick Wonder Pan. The magic of cast iron lies in its versatility. Need to purify water? Your cast iron pot can handle that. Want to bake bread without an oven? Dutch oven style, baby. From frying fish to slow-cooking stews, or even using it as a makeshift heater in a cold room. These pans do it all. You can use it on any heat source. Wood stove, campfire, solar oven, or even that fancy induction cooktop while it still works. Heat distribution? Perfect. Durability? Bulletproof. Non-stick qualities? Better than those chemical-coated pans once you've got it properly seasoned. You'll find these sturdy pots and pans in every Amish kitchen because they know something most of us have forgotten. Good tools don't need replacing every few years. In a world where things are built to break, cast iron cookware stands as a testament to lasting quality. Now, let's step outside to look at something that could change your survival game entirely. Greenhouse. Mother Nature might be the boss, but a greenhouse lets you negotiate better terms with her. Just look at how the Amish extend their growing season. While everyone else is staring at snow-covered gardens, they're still pulling fresh vegetables from their greenhouses in the dead of winter. Did you know that a properly built greenhouse can extend your growing season by up to 4 months in most climates? That's the difference between having fresh tomatoes in December and having to fight over the last can of spaghetti sauce at the store. But we're not talking about those flimsy plastic things from the big box store. The Amish build their greenhouses to last through whatever weather comes their way. The real beauty of a greenhouse is its versatility. Sure, you can grow regular vegetables year-round, but it's also perfect for starting seedlings early, protecting cold-sensitive plants, and even growing medicinal herbs that wouldn't normally survive in your climate. A decent-sized greenhouse can produce up to 2,000 pounds of food annually. That's a lot of meals that don't depend on the local supermarket staying open. And here's the kicker. You don't need a huge piece of land to make this work. Even a small 8 by 10 foot greenhouse can produce enough vegetables to keep a family eating fresh through winter. The Amish have been using these year-round gardens for generations because they understand a simple truth. The only food supply you can truly count on is the one you control yourself. This completes our list of essential Amish survival items that could make the difference between thriving and just surviving when times get tough.